Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott. We now turn to Boston, where there's an important hearing for a woman accused of killing her boyfriend, a police officer. They say she did it with her car. But is there a bigger cover-up going on? The prosecutors say that Karen Reed hit John Okeefe after she dropped him off at a house party back in January of this year. Reed allegedly hit Okeefe while turning around before driving away. She then returned later to find him dead, face down in a snowbank outside that same house. Now, Karen Reed has pled not guilty. She initially bailed out of jail, but was later ordered to be held in custody. A hearing began earlier this afternoon, and her defense says prosecutors are withholding information about phone data. Let's listen to some of their argument.
So today was my client's first appearance after her Superior Court arraignment. And as you would expect, we are now starting the discovery process in Superior Court. The history of this case was such that while the case was pending for months in the district court, we had a lot of difficulty getting cooperation from the prosecution in turning over the information that they had. We had more than one court date where, there was a big fight in court where we were pushing to get the information that we needed, and they were essentially giving us the stiff arm in district court. Now that the case has been indicted, I'm pleased to say that the spigot has started to open up a little bit. We got some further material today, which we are going to review, cross-reference against what we have. I think the theme for the day, really the theme for the past several months, is that with each new piece of evidence that comes in, we're more and more convinced of my client's innocence. Each new piece of evidence appears to corroborate that, and we're doggedly investigating this case to exonerate her, which we're confident she will be if this case ever goes to trial.
You say if. What could stop it at this point?
The only thing that could stop this case from going to trial is if the prosecution becomes convinced of my client's innocence, as we are. If the question was, will there be a plea deal in this case, that's off the table. I have an innocent client who looks forward to going to trial on this case, but I believe there may come a point where the prosecution sees the evidence that we have, and maybe they realize that they were wrong from the start.
What can you tell us about what you have, the picture that's starting to emerge from what you're gathering?
So I'm not prepared to reveal the evidence that's in our possession, mainly because we're using that evidence as a springboard to get further evidence. Before I begin revealing, material of that nature, I need to complete my investigation. So there's not, a rush to reveal our defense. We're preparing our defense, but the truth will come out in time.
Now, that was just a small portion of that exclusive interview with the defendant's attorney secured by our own Emanuela Grinberg. Now I want to have someone else special to this case join me, Flint McColgan from the Boston Herald, a reporter. Thank you so much, Flint, for joining us this afternoon. There's so much I want to ask, but let me just kind of jump to the point of it and say, what are the really questionable details in this case?
Well, as you heard from defense counsel David Yannetti earlier, he really came out swinging when the case was in the lower court, so Stoughton District Court, where he felt that he just wasn't getting a lot of discovery evidence, that discovery was coming up quite late. Today, he said that he feels that the prosecutor is making headway on sharing a lot of that with him, and he filed 4 new motions, discovery motions, including ones for, he wants to inspect the clothing, he wants to inspect the taillights, he wants to have Google geofence data. And so what he said after court today was that was something he's kind of said since the beginning, which is that he believes that the injuries weren't consistent with being backed into by an SUV, which is what she's accused of doing. He said that should a taillight hit, a body, it wouldn't really break like that, and he thinks the jury would agree as well. And he also said something quite colorful. He said that someone hit by a car wouldn't look like they, went a few rounds with Mike Tyson, which is what the body looked like when it was found January 29th, 6:04 is what he said. So,
all right, Flint, let's talk about those injuries. I want to go through the ones that we're aware of that we can bring up for our viewers' knowledge. Several skull fractures, injuries to the boyfriend, now deceased, 2 black eyes, forearm wounds. These are things he suffered: a cut to the back of the head, clothes covered in blood and vomit, and that I just heard all your language you shared, that he said he looked like he'd gone through a round with Mike Tyson. So if the attorneys are saying, listen, this was not caused by a car, who did it? It seems to be there's an elephant in the room. Did the police do it to their own?
There's been nothing brought up in court so far attesting to those things, but David Yannetti did say that there could be other information or other theories that he will be putting forth in the future as this moves along, now that it's in the Superior Court. He did say that, that he felt that the prosecutor was making evidence, but he did say also today that that he has been very suspicious of, the investigation into the case, and he thinks that there are a lot of questions left unanswered and maybe not as forthcoming as they should be. So I think Yannetti is hinting that we will be seeing other theories put forth by the defense moving forward.
And Flint, I so appreciate all your knowledge of all the intimate details of this case. Do you know why? Because I certainly don't know why. She was arrested, she was incarcerated, the defendant. She was then let out of jail, but now she's incarcerated again for this crime.
So she posted $50,000 bail when during the initial manslaughter charges, and so she walked away. She looked happier than I've seen her so far in the pleading so far. I think that there's confidence on the defense's side. The change over here that you were discussing is that it did move to a Superior Court, and the changes changed from a manslaughter warrant, manslaughter charges, to second degree murder charges. So it was manslaughter, motor vehicle homicide by negligence, and leave scene of personal injury and death in the original filings. And then when it moved to when a Norfolk County grand jury, they found her probable cause for second-degree murder, and that's how it's moving forward. So the changes and the venue have changed.
I thank you so much for all your knowledge, again, of all the intimate details of the case. One last question, and that, I know you were in the courtroom for the hearing today, and we just saw a lot of people seated in the courtroom. Tell us a little bit about, were you surprised at any of the people who were there? Was it a packed courtroom? What was the atmosphere like?
Well, I will say that something that has been throughout this, there have always been a lot of police officers there. By all accounts, Officer John Okeefe, who was he served with the BPD for 16 years. Yannetti even said today, he said that Okeefe was a good cop and a good man, and that's why his client was with him. But today we really saw an outpouring of her family and friends coming there today. There were a lot of them. So it feels like, the courtrooms have never been empty in this case.
All right, Flint McColgan, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. Still with me, our trial attorneys Erica Wilson and Holly Davis. Holly, let me start with you first. Do you think something's fishy when you hear what we've just talked about? Does it sound like she did it?
I sure think her lawyer is building us up to think that there's a police cover-up. I heard an interview that was played earlier today on Court TV of her defense lawyer saying he doesn't, quote, trust the police. And so in my mind, when he doesn't give us any more information, I immediately run to, is this a crooked cop? Is this somebody who's been targeted by the police? There's a lot of questions that are unanswered. But also keep in mind, Judge, we all know how difficult the discovery process is. It is burdensome and it is confusing, and it's ripe with miscommunication. So if this defense lawyer is claiming that just on a discovery dispute, I don't think that's going to carry the day.
Right, I agree with you. Discovery, being an attorney is no small feat because it's motion after motion after motion, especially as a criminal defense attorney sometimes. Erica, what do you think? Is it a cover-up? Could the police really be responsible for this crime?
I don't know. You know, a lot of times with these defense attorneys, it could be a lot of lip service. And again, you don't really want to state definitively, and he really danced around the topic when asked. Well, he said definitively that he won't do a plea, but he indicated that he would not, disclose what evidence he had. He's smart to wait and get all of the discovery from the state to see what it is that they have before you even try to put forth what your defense is going to be, because you don't want to say self-defense and you can prove that it probably wasn't her, and you don't want to say the opposite and then have to change it midstream. So he's reasonably prudent to wait until the state turns over everything and then go through that and then make a statement. But right now he has to say something. It could be plausible based on what his client is telling him that is happening. But again, he's kind of treading water here until he can figure out what actually happened.
Especially because he doesn't have all the discovery. And so until you have that as an attorney, you really don't know what cards the other side is holding. So I know we're going to have a lot more on that story.